Good evening, everyone. To frame the story of the Scarborough Walk of Fame, which is what I'm going to talk about this evening, let me start with two inspiring quotes from Nelson Mandela. To quote Mr. Mandela, "Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they're dedicated to and passionate about what they do." And a second quote from the senior leader of our times: "As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same." The Scarborough Walk of Fame stars are emblematic of Mr. Mandela's visionary and inspiring words. The Walk of Fame celebrates the stories of Scarborough citizens, past and present, whose extraordinary contributions reap great community pride. These Scarboroughrites have reached extraordinary heights in their chosen field of endeavor through hard work, determination, and with a community spirit. The Scarborough Walk of Fame is a not-for-profit, volunteer-driven organization dedicated to honoring Scarborough citizens. Established in 2004, its goals are to celebrate community, to recognize achievement, and to inspire tomorrow's leaders. The Walk of Fame is located at the Scarborough Town Center. On display on the flooring of the Walk of Fame court are the bronze stars with the names of current inductees. Each year, over 20 million visitors pass the Scarborough Walk of Fame court. Some of you may not have visited the Walk of Fame court in the town center or attended an inductee ceremony. So let me give you a bit of background on the Walk of Fame, how it got created, evolved, and the progress made since inception. The story begins in 2003. There was a SARS outbreak in the city of Toronto, and the epicenter of the outbreak was the Scarborough Grace Hospital, which is today the Birchmont site of the Scarborough Health Network. When SCRO got under control and things returned to normal, the community of Scarborough continued to suffer from the stigma of this epidemic. Maria Dyke, at the time she was at the University of Scarborough campus, Maria started making phone calls to gather together Scarborough leaders to determine what could be done to bolster Scarborough's image, morale, and depleted reputation. Together with the Scarborough Mirror, Centennial College, the Delta Hotel, Toronto East, Rome and Haas, which is a local Scarborough company, a Stand Up Scarborough campaign was launched. And for some time, the Stand Up Scarborough campaign continued to work behind the scenes, but eventually the team decided that it would be more beneficial to the community to create a permanent visual display of Scarborough's bright lights, that is, our Scarborough stars. In 2004, the Scarborough Walk of Fame was established. The Scarborough Town Center was approached, and the management came on board, agreeing to allow the installation of permanent stars in the floor of the food court to form a natural footpath. With thousands of people passing the space daily, it provided great visibility for these stars. Over the years, the committee changed, and the Scarborough Walk of Fame board was created, and the organization was legally incorporated. The aim was to create a Walk of Fame that would serve and inspire the youth in our community. With the help of Scarborough councillors, city funding was secured to design, to fabricate, and install the bronze stars. And through the generosity of Scarborough businesses and Scarborough institutions and individuals, inductee events were funded with sponsorships, and the events were delivered by Scarborough volunteers, a truly made in Scarborough community undertaking. During the Scarborough Town Center 2010 renovation, the stars were moved adjacent to the mall center court on the lower level, and the Scarborough Walk of Fame court was created. To date, the Walk of Fame has inducted 54 individuals, and the events are held every 2 years. Just to give you an example of a few past award winners, in 2018, Ann Buller got an award for her contributions to education, and was a visionary leader who embedded the principles of global citizenship, equity, and inclusion into Centennial College's programs and operations. In 2018 as well, Cardinal Official for Entertainment, a Scarborough-born rapper, record producer, he paved the way for a new wave of Canadian superstars. In 2015, Mike Holmes, for both business and entertainment. Mike, as many of you may know, is one of Canada's most trusted contractors and the host and co-creator of the hit series Home and Homes. And in 2013, Dwayne Morgan for Arts and Culture, a spoken word artist, winner of several Canadian awards and recognized beyond Canadian borders. And in 2007, Dr. Ming Tak Chiang, community, clinical psychologist whose community, charitable, and cultural activities are too numerous to mention. He was the past chair and president of the Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto. In 2018, for the first time, 4 young individuals were presented with Scarborough Walk of Fame Rising Star Awards. Too early in their careers to have accomplished enough to get a star, these recipients are making their own mark in our community. Now, a little bit about the inductee nomination criteria and process. A strict nomination process and selection criteria is followed in order to accept, research, and vet candidates for induction into the Hall of Fame. And during the nomination campaign, a call for nominations is sent out to the community via direct mail, social media, digital displays at the Scarborough Town Center, and then on the Scarborough Walk of Fame website. Over a period of months, and submissions are carefully gathered and cataloged. Each inductee is recognized for their achievements under the categories of sports, art and culture, education, community, environment, health and science, entertainment, or business. Many reaching national and world-renowned status. Their stories are inspiring, providing an example of what can be achieved through commitment, determination, and a compassion to achieve while overcoming numerous challenges. Nominees must have been born or spent formative years in Scarborough, have achieved a high degree of excellence in his or her field of endeavor, serve as role model for future leaders, and agree to accept the nomination and be present at the induction event. So this brings us to the current state of the Scarborough Walk of Fame. After a strategic planning session, the Walk of Fame board decided on the necessity to ensure that the Walk of Fame continues to celebrate community, recognize achievement, and inspire tomorrow's leaders well into the future. When looking at these goals, the Walk of Fame board agreed that their goals strongly aligned with what the Scarborough Community Renewal organization aspires to: connecting, promoting, and renewing Scarborough. For that reason, on March 1, 2021, this year, ownership for the Scarborough Walk of Fame was transferred to SCRO, which is the Scarborough Community Renewal Organization. All of the Walk of Fame goals and aspirations are now the responsibility of SCRO. The next Scarborough Walk of Fame event was delayed and will be held in the early spring of 2022. In closing, the hope is that over time, all of Scarborough will become more familiar with the Walk of Fame, and the Walk of Fame will become iconic across Scarborough community and beyond our borders. You can participate in several ways. You could visit the Walk of Fame court at the Scarborough Town Center. You could visit the Scarborough Walk of Fame website at scarboroughwalkoffame.com. Or you can participate in the nomination process for future inductees once we publish a request for nominees, which should be coming out probably sometime late summer. Or finally, you could volunteer to work on our upcoming 2022 spring events. Let me close, therefore, with another inspiring quote from Mr. Mandela. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived, It is the difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, John. I'm John Stapleton, and I am your MC tonight. And can we all have a round of applause for John so he can see us as we clap out there? Thanks.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
And you're getting lots of reactions through these various emojis too. And so we really want people to join in with the Scarborough Walk of Fame, and certainly SCRO that has stepped up to take over the administration and its ongoing role in the community. So just as some housekeeping here as we get started, once again, thanks again to John, and to my role tonight here is to introduce our spotlight speaker, Lee Soda.
Wait, John, you're a little bit early.
Yes.
In case some people are coming on for 7. Larry had his hand up.
Oh, okay, Larry. I got the script here from Mark, so I'm trying to follow it.
Actually, that was meant to be my clapping hand, but I ended up raising my other hand by mistake.
Oh,
but that works out okay, because I just wanted to, I mean, we have Councillor Cynthia Laya on the call. Welcome, Cynthia, good to see you. And also now our MP, I'm sorry.
Scarborough Center.
Scarborough Center MP, Zalma Zahid. So Zalma, welcome to the call as well.
Thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you here tonight. I can see that we don't have thousands of people on tonight, but it's shall I say that we're small but mighty, and it's great to have you here. I just want to start with a little bit of a land acknowledgement. One thing I like to do is note that that Tabor Hill, that's at the corner of Lawrence and Bellamy, is the only recognized ossuary, as it's called, which is really a cemetery for First Nations people, of Iroquois people. It was discovered in 1956 and had been there for many hundreds of years. And although there is obviously a lot of cemeteries for First Nations people, it is the only one that has been certified and understood to be a certified ossuary for First Nations people. So that's in our own Scarborough. And and I'd also like to say that of course, we all live on Indigenous land. So in terms of introducing Lee, one of the things I'm going to be doing is monitoring the chat for questions, and I've already got a number of questions on my own that have already come to mind. I don't even have to write them down. I have lots of them here. So let me introduce Lee. She's the executive director at the Agincourt Community Services Association, which is AXA. And I think that all of us know that AXA is a multi-service agency. It's a nonprofit. And it's that place that when you're traveling west on Shepherd and past Midland, it's just in there to your left. It doesn't have great big neon signs or anything like that. It's easy to miss it. But AXA is one of the really important hubs in Toronto, in Scarborough, and especially in northern Scarborough. And his core business is addressing the needs and supporting those living in poverty. And Lee, I can say from personal experience, excels at developing partnerships, nurturing and fostering endeavors, and in securing the necessary resources to do that, which she has just said earlier that she's going to be doing for SCAN. So good luck, Lee, on that. She's a strong advocate of inclusive social policies and works towards breaking down systemic barriers through access, equity, and encouragement programs and services within communities to build strong and vibrant and safe and healthy neighborhoods where people can live, work, play, and thrive within. And of course, that has special meaning in the context of the recent pandemic that we all fervently hope that we are coming out of. Lee received recognition for her work in Scarborough communities from the province of Ontario as a leading woman champion. and recognize her efforts to empower girls and women at being the best they can be and leading by the example and making our communities better starts with each one of us, and you never leave it to someone else to get the job done. Lee's responsibilities range from ensuring adequate funding for current programs and seeking resources to start up programs that respond to the growing needs of the underserved communities in Scarborough. And that's why Lee will be working to get NIA status for areas of Northern Scarborough. That was my own comment. Lee leads what she considers to be the hardest working, most dynamic and impassioned team of staff and volunteers, working with her team to bring vital programs and services to the most marginalized individuals within the community, particularly interested in ways which community members continually be encouraged and supported to play a more central role in creating more equitable and inclusive communities throughout our great city. So in welcoming Lee and the powerhouse of people and audience that are in our small audience tonight, looking at people like Angela Brown and seeing Jamil again, which is lovely to see you, Jamil. Lee, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And thank you for those kind words, which reminds me I've got to shorten that bio. Thanks to everybody for showing up here this evening. I would be remiss if I didn't say that at the start of this little presentation that I'm going to give about helping newcomers. I believe the title is Thrive, Grow, and Flourish. I would be remiss to not say that I am the daughter of an immigrant from the 1960s and first generation born in this country. And I know that I have gained much from the privilege of being the daughter of an immigrant coming to this country from forefathers before us, and me and my family and my mom and my dad have gained tremendously from this land, and it is my privilege to continue to live here and to raise my family here and my future generations. So I feel that we must acknowledge that we are standing and living on land that has been here for thousands and thousands of years before us. So tonight, I am privileged to share with you the work of AXA that has been in communities since 1970s. Our tagline, Building Bridges for a Better Tomorrow, is something that I take very seriously as a leader of this agency. It is important that AXA, and as far as I'm concerned, any other social service agency, does not make people dependent on systems. That's not why this agency exists. This agency instead exists to give a hand up to people when they need it. And it is our experience from the people that walk in through our door that we all need a hand up at some point in time. And that is when they show up, and that we do whatever we can to give them that hand up in that moment in time to move people on so that they can be successful, contributing members of the community that they live in and continue to give back. And that is, for the most part, the story of the newcomer. And I often reflect when I talk about newcomers and the work that we do at AXA with newcomers, that the newcomer story hasn't really changed very much since the day back in April of 1962 when my parents landed here, 50, 60 years ago now. And so I share with you what we are doing at this agency to help newcomers flourish, thrive, and grow. Next slide, please. AXA is multi-sided. My children would say that I'm also multi-sided with many eyes in the back of my head, side of my head. But in this case, it means that we have many sites throughout Scarborough. Each of the sites, there are 6 throughout all of Scarborough. We're a Scarborough-based agency. Each has its unique programs and services, and each are interconnected with one another because we are not isolated, working in silos kind of agency. The staff do work collaboratively to do a lot of interdepartment referrals and making sure that we are working as holistic as we possibly can. Next slide, please. So working together to build strong, healthy communities and helping newcomers thrive, grow, and flourish. You all know that we live in a province and in a country where immigrants and newcomers are welcomed and needed. As a society, we believe that we must support immigrants so that they can succeed and contribute to our economy and communities quickly upon their arrival to this country. Economic immigrants, which are a big part of the type of immigrant that comes to Ontario and to Canada, they are ready to enter the job market. And when we welcome an economic immigrant and their families into our communities, they're more likely to settle, stay, and succeed and contribute to growing and building the communities in which they settle and far beyond. They will move forward to fill position, but they will also create jobs and invest in our communities. Immigrants, we know, help grow Canada's future in a lot of different industries. And I have no doubt that everyone on this screen believes that it's up to all of us to ensure that newcomers thrive, grow, and flourish. Next slide, please. So this is something that I do often when I make presentations, and some of you may have been part of my presentations in the past, where I like to share with you the thoughts, the feelings, the sentiments, the worries of people who walk in through our doors. I have the great privilege of having many conversations with people who use our services, people who show up in perhaps the lowest point of their lives. And when I say that I feel privileged, I do, because it takes a lot of courage to share your story. And being the holder of a lot of stories, I think that the only way to really do justice to what people's endurance and perseverance looks like is if I share their stories in their words. And so I'm going to do that throughout the next few slides. And I think it'll just really give you an idea of the type of people that we serve here at AXA, that are in our communities, that perhaps are our neighbors. They are the corner store clerk. And please join me in hearing their words and their stories. And I remind you, these are not my words. Next slide, please. This is my first interview in Canada. I'm 55 years old, a pediatrician in my home country. I watched the hospital that I worked in for 30 years crumble to the ground as it got bombed. This was a Syrian refugee that interviewed for a job, which he got at the AXA Newcomer Center 2 months after he arrived in Canada. One of the hardest working, brilliant men I have ever had the privilege of knowing and getting the opportunity to work with. A doctor, a pediatrician, working as a newcomer settlement officer with AXA, now going on to 5 years. A far, far cry from being a pediatrician all of his life. I came to Canada 3 years ago. I don't want you to give me anything that I don't earn. I need a job and I need to support my family. This came from the mouth of one particular newcomer that shared his story with me many years ago. But I can assure you that I have heard that sentiment over and over and over again over the years. People don't want to be on systems. They, for the most part, a lot of newcomers feel a sense of shame if they have to go onto our welfare system. And when they arrive here, the first thing we hear are, I need a place to live and I need a job to support my family. Next slide, please. We have been serving newcomers since 2010. We got the contract with IRCC almost 11 years ago now. And our goal to serving newcomers is to invest in the knowledge transfer, skill building, language training, and the creation of meaningful connections with our newest citizens by delivering a comprehensive array of programs and services. We need to provide our newcomers with the tools that will serve them best in their settlement and integration journey to becoming productive contributors to the economic, social, and cultural development of this country. And that is what our goal is. Again, it is not to attach people to systems. It is about giving them what they need quickly in their settlement journey to be able to integrate into community as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. I have seen the health of my husband decline since we arrived in Canada. He cannot find work and feels he is not fulfilling his duty to care for his family. He's an engineer, a good father, and now he struggles with depression and anxiety. He needs someone to give him a chance. If I had a loonie for every time I heard that story, I need someone to give me a chance. And we are a country, our system continues to ask for Canadian experience, not giving people because they don't have Canadian experience. And that is often such a barrier for folks. So we continue to work with policymakers to have them understand the incredible barrier that this is. And we have seen how, especially newcomers that come from patriarchal societies where the man of the household is deemed as the provider, who is the one that needs to provide for his family, and coming to this country unable to find work and care for his family, we often see mental health issues prevail and often hinder these folks from moving forward. So if we can remember that these folks have a lot to offer, and the quicker that we can get them into the workforce and get them learning English and contributing, the quicker they will be able to stand on their own 2 feet and be contributing members of our communities. We have an unbelievable program called Pathways to Employment. It is in partnership with the City of Toronto, where we immediately connect individuals to language classes, teach them English, and opportunities, of course, in this new world are offered both in person and online, and it is always the first step. Let us teach you how to speak enough English to be able to get you a job and be able to ask your own medical questions to your doctor and be able to help yourself while you are settling here. Making available pathways to employment and training opportunities geared to entry-level jobs is a stepping stone into employment and integration into our community. We have this Pathways to Employment program, which offers employment opportunities into entry-level jobs. And people might say, well, why are you offering entry-level jobs to these highly educated people? The reality is that foot in the door is often what they need to help build their confidence, to help practice their English skills, and to start developing those networks in the community. If you are a star and you are hardworking and you have enthusiasm, those folks in those entry-level jobs will very quickly move up into whatever organization they are in, and it becomes a launch pad for them. Next slide, please. Tomorrow, my daughter begins school. She asked me for a new pair of jeans because the old ones have holes. I only have enough money to buy food this week and I can't make ends meet. Can I clean the washrooms to earn money to buy my daughter new jeans? We hear a lot of these kinds of stories as well. A lot of single women households raising families, and they struggle. They struggle until they are able to stand up on their own 2 feet, until they are able to be eligible for child minding or child care and get themselves into the workforce. We have some unbelievable programs where they are specifically for newcomer women. We call this one our Stronger Women's Project, and this particular initiative works with immigrant and refugee women, offering training and economic opportunities for entrepreneurship, skills training related to the hospitality and food industry, including food handling, restaurant and banquet server training, cake decoration, how to start a catering business. And the menu of trainings that we include in this project is creating business plans, social media trainings, and one-on-one consults with investors for loans and startup opportunities. We had the very first cohort of women who graduated from the Stronger Women's Project graduate just before COVID hit. And it is through the Stronger Women's Project and the skills that these women developed that they quickly pivoted into an online forum and have continued to build their online presence. And they have continued to earn money even during COVID. So a lot of success stories. Next slide, please. English Circle for Immigrant Women. I attended the graduation ceremony this morning. It is, I swear, the highlight of my year. This is a newcomer women-led initiative where women in the community 10 years ago recognized that they needed to help themselves. And women who were teachers and professors back home in their country of origin knew how to speak English. So they organized, they self-organized and started having English conversation circles of multiple languages for those that had different abilities, English abilities. And they started having English learning circles in their living rooms. And it ballooned into more and more women hearing about it to the point where they found AXA. And over the last 10 years, we've been able to nurture this grassroots group in helping them to write small grants. We've given them space at the Dorset Park Hub, and they have created this unbelievable mushrooming of women helping women, where they also provide child minding while the women are learning English. They truly took matters into their own hands. And we have been able to replicate this model that started in an apartment building in Dorset Park. And it has now been replicated over 3 different communities, serving hundreds of women to help each other. Many of them have gone on to to higher education. Some of them have got their GED. Some of them have started their own business. It has been just an absolute marvel to watch and to support these group of women. Next slide, please. Newcomers need more than one thing at a time. Our whole is greater than the sum of our parts. I think that no criticism of my colleagues and other agencies out there who do this work, but we cannot have a uni-focus. People have many needs. And I often, will say, if someone comes in to access our food bank and is food insecure, we can be pretty sure that there are a lot of other needs that we can also help them with. So when you come into AXA, when our newcomers come for settlement services, which will usually be the first thing that lands them at our doorstep, we will surround them with English classes and computer literacy classes, access to technology, of course, housing, which is no small feat, as we all know in this day and age, food insecurity, so access to food, of course, schools, getting their children placed in schools, childcare, counseling for some folks that need it, we've coined our approach a People 360 approach, because we have to look at people in their entirety. Next slide, please. A newcomer settlement journey includes many things, and this is how you can help. This is how you can be part of the journey of a newcomer. There are no one thing or all things are needed for a newcomer. Adequate housing. We often see and hear that newcomers are impeded because landlords request credit checks. So stepping up for a newcomer in a way where that could no longer be a barrier for them would be a huge help. Accessibility to convenient language classes, including online access and child minding. Link classes are wonderful, but they have often proven to have a very long waiting lists. And so these smaller community-based language class opportunities for people are often what they really need, that there is a lot of flexibility and that they can also bring their children. Teaching them and showing them the public transit system. We partnered up with many different faith houses during the big Syrian refugee influx. And that was one of the biggest supports that sponsors and people who wanted to help were able to do. Actually go on daily road trips, showing our newcomers our public transit system. Huge help. Conversations, just engaging in conversations so that people can practice their basic English. Mentoring and coaching a newcomer. Honestly, generosity of time is an amazing gift. It's priceless, actually. Speed dating opportunities with professionals from their fields of expertise or interest. Like I said, economic newcomers are plentiful, and one of the most successful things that we can do is offer speed dating opportunities where we invite different professionals from different fields and give, again, the gift of time and expertise to speak to newcomers. Tutor their children and also support them with attending parent-teacher conferences and link them to a settlement agency. System navigation is not easy. It's one of the toughest things that are actually faced by newcomers. If any of you have tried to call Service Canada sometimes or try to have to get through the bureaucracy of systems, even for folks who are English speaking and know how to, press 1 and press 2, and if you've had to deal with, booking a vaccine, it is often more complicated than it needs to be. And only imagine if you can't speak the language or if you don't have a computer or all the time in the world to be able to navigate it. Next slide, please. How can you help? How can you continue to help? In the previous slide, connect people to faith houses and libraries. Two of the most commonly asked questions: where is a church where I can worship, and where is a library? Connecting people to our newcomers to the basic needs like doctors and dentists. Often we find that depending on where folks are coming from, their health has been neglected for long periods of time. And Canadian experience, references, introduce them to your contacts and your networks. A foot in the door is often priceless. Life in Canada is good now, but the first year of my family's life was very difficult. I felt safe from bombs and war, but I had different fears. Like, will I have enough to eat tonight? Have enough to feed my kids tonight? So no worries about a bomb falling on your house, but will my kids go to sleep hungry tonight? A very different worry, but a worry nonetheless. Next slide, please. This is what we do. We are a community service agency and we plug people into programs and services. We are a one-stop shop and we are a connector to all. Next slide, please. We'll go through these next few slides very quickly. We meet people's basic needs. Maslow's hierarchy. If you don't have enough to eat on the table tonight, you can't think of anything else. So let's take care of the basics. Next slide, please. The programs that we offer, the services that we offer help to nurture and build people's soul, people's lives. Because when you are okay, then not only can you take care of your own family, we can move on to the next slide. You can start to flourish, and you can start thinking beyond your own four walls. You can start to actually flourish and take that outward to our communities. Next slide, please. Big part of my job, big part of anyone who is trying to advocate for systems change. We must work together. A lot of the policies that we have don't work for everybody. And we do need to work on changing systems, moving systems so that they work better for all. Next slide, please. The hope is always that there's improved quality of life and greater control over one's life, which is one of the biggest reasons why our newcomers come to this country. Next slide, please. This is how we work. We work from a client-centered approach. We meet people's needs. We work for systems change. We help nurture and build and flourish. Doesn't matter what door you come in or where you are on your journey. It is our job to make sure that everybody walks out of here at one point or another being able to be healthy and a contributing member of our communities. Next slide, please. These are some things that there are stats. I just pulled them out of IRCC website. We have over 73% of the clients that walk in through our doors are newcomers to Canada. Immigrants represent 30% of Canada's population, and by compared to just a few years ago to 20.7, we are evenly matched between male and female newcomers that come into our country. The countries where most foreign-born or newcomers come from today are India, followed by China, Philippines, and United States. I found this to be interesting. Was the 5th most common origin country for newcomers to Canada in 2019. I would have lost that bet. Between July 2019 and June 30th, 2020, which is also during the time of pandemic, the numbers did dip some for newcomers being welcomed or being welcomed into our country, 227,000 into Ontario. And it is our job to integrate newcomers into our communities so that they can further enrich the fabric of Scarborough, which I believe is a fabulous place to live. Next slide, please. Again, some more statistics for us. Newcomers fill gaps in the Canadian labor market. 1 in 4 workers are newcomers. 600,000 self-employed immigrants employing over 260,000 Canadians. 9% of them are small business owners, which we will have to continue to give a hand up as we talk about recovery after the pandemic. Over 1/3 this is in 2016, over 1/3 of our nurses, aides, orderly, patient service associates, PSWs are immigrants. Immigrant owners of small and medium-sized businesses are successful in introducing product, process, and marketing innovation in our marketplace. And many of those that immigrate as children or the children of immigrants on average contribute to the Canadian labor force and go on to earn as much or more than Canadian-born individuals. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide. And I wanted to incorporate this unbelievably great line that stays with me has stayed with me for many, many years. Il lavoro è salute. And this is a line from 85-year-old Luigi, who immigrated to Canada in 1962. Luigi is my father. And il lavoro è salute means work is health. And my dad worked for 40 years in the same company, blue collar worker, worked building precast cement for buildings. And throughout my entire childhood, as we were in the car driving, he would look out the window and point to different buildings and say, look at that building over there. I built that. Now, he didn't really build that building, but he meant that he contributed to that building. And my dad, I think in 40 years, if he called in sick twice, it was too much. Because to him, as a newcomer to this country, it was his privilege and his obligation to work hard, give back, and raise children with those same values. And I started off this conversation by saying the newcomer journey has not changed much, because those same values that my dad instilled on me and that he truly believed in are the same values and beliefs that I hear from a lot of our newcomers today. So how else can you get involved? Hire locally. Scarborough residents are looking for work. Newcomers, new graduates, they're ready and able and willing to contribute a wealth of experience and knowledge to your business. Mentor a newcomer. Our newest citizens are looking for a hand up and need to increase their networks. Rent a space. If anybody is looking for space, we've got space at the Dorset Park Hub. Call us. We can help a newcomer have a little corner where they can start up their business. Volunteer. We are always looking for volunteers with our newcomers, as well as the many, many other departments of this agency. And donations never hurt. So there's the link to donate now. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope that this has been insightful. I hope it has juiced you up to hire a newcomer, mentor a newcomer, and I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Lee. I'll formally thank you a little later on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the questions. And one of my jobs was, and a very insightful presentation it was, and I think also very compelling. And I don't know that people really understand the until they hear you, and we all remind ourselves of just how intricate and how important and what a tapestry we have in terms of our services, our supports, our community engagements, our volunteers, all of that, and how much and how important it is for our community, and especially here in Scarborough, where we do have more poverty and low-income people than certain other areas of the GTA. One of the things I was to do was to monitor the chat, and I don't have any questions in the chat right now. So I'm very much hoping that in the next couple of minutes, we're going to get a lot of questions into that chat. I think
Jamil has a question, John.
Okay, I think we're small enough that we can unmute ourselves and ask a question. So I see Jamil has her hand up in the chat. So Jamil, if you want to unmute yourself, and you can be our first questioner.
Thanks, John. First of all, I wanted to thank Lee. Thank you so much for your time and speaking a little bit about AXA. It's an organization that I think maybe a lot of people have heard about before, but maybe didn't know the full spectrum of things that you guys do. So thank you for that. And just want to also thank John and Gerard and Marg for your organizing of this event today. So Lee, I just wanted to ask, in terms of systems change, which you talked a little bit about, I'm just wondering, is there any policy change or government response that you're hoping to see coming out of this pandemic in particular, which has exposed, I think, just the extent to which there's vulnerability in our society?
That's a great question. Thanks, Jamil. I don't think that we are going to go back to a normal. As much as we crave a normal of before the pandemic, I don't really think we should go back to that normal because there were a lot of things that weren't okay about it. There are the inequities that have been, we always knew that there were inequities within our system, but I think that this pandemic has really uncovered more of them, and we have now seen people that not only that they had fallen through the cracks, but those that were sort of right at the edge have actually, slipped through the cracks. So it just has made it more people struggling. I am looking for some changes around housing. We are joining forces on a lot of the different housing initiatives. We need to get our city back on track where owning a house should not be a luxury. We need to ensure that everyone has a safe, affordable place to live. I am looking for some policy changes around universal basic income. I think that is something that would level out the playing field a little more, because when you don't have to worry about where your next meal is going to come from, where your next check is going to come from, that you can actually focus your energies on being well and taking steps to actually becoming healthy and whole, so that you can become a contributing member of the community. We have a lot of issues around our food policies. One of the biggest things that I saw during this pandemic is that we continue to have this great feeling of accomplishment every time a food bank kept being open during the pandemic. And there was one point where I was told that 14 new food banks were opened up in Scarborough, as if that was a good thing, as if we couldn't use our energies into actually addressing the root causes of why people don't have enough to eat, which is because we don't pay a decent minimum wage. And so, I want to see our minimum wage increased. I want to see basic universal income. I want to see changes around, our housing structure. There's a lot of work to be done. And when I talk about systems change, I also know that it isn't just people like me or us that should be working towards systems change. We need to ensure that the residents in our communities and people who are being impacted the most need to be at the table to have these conversations and to be part of pushing for systems change.
Thanks very much, Jamil and Lee. We have a question from Bob Dallas, and I think it's more of a housekeeping sort of thing. He asks, hello, Lee, would you please share the last slide of the presentation or post the links? Very informative session. Thank you. So I'm just wondering, rather than just one slide, are we able to share your slides from tonight and for each of the people who are
Absolutely.
Here today?
Yes.
Okay.
I've already shared. I shared it with Susan. I sent it to Susan. So whoever would like to have the presentation is more than welcome to it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll ask a question of my own as MC here, and that I was just one of the things that we know that has happened during the pandemic period is that there are far fewer newcomers coming into Canada and coming into Ontario. So I'm just wondering if you wanted to just talk in general terms what that has meant for you and what sort of insights that you have in an environment where we have seen far fewer people coming in, but we've also seen, on the other hand, many people who were here, who are trying to get their PR, their permanent residency, and all those sorts of things, and they have continued to go along their settlement route. Just to say, what's that been like for you? Because it's certainly something that you never expected.
So we have not, Ontario, Canada has not been welcoming as many newcomers into Canada during the pandemic. It is my understanding, is Selma still on the call? I don't see her. But is my understanding from the meetings that we are having with IRCC and everything that I am hearing is that we will be opening up again, and there will be an influx of a considerable number of newcomers that will be welcomed into Canada. And, you know, for us during the time of this pandemic since last March, it has been a really hard 15 months to see people struggle, to see lineups that were winding for blocks and blocks and blocks to come and get a parcel of food because people have lost their jobs. It has been humbling beyond words that I have to have seniors showing up at our Shepherd site on Tuesdays that go around the block to come and get a hamper of food because, you know, the fixed income that they are on is getting more and more difficult to live on. We have a lot of work to do, and John is right. The inequities that we are seeing the gaps are getting wider. And in Scarborough, in North Scarborough, you know, you can drive through the streets of Scarborough and see, you know, what looks like beautiful neighborhoods and big houses and well manicured lawns. But the divide between the haves and the have-nots is real. It's real. And we need to care about this. All of us need to care about this. And all of us need to ensure that we bring folks who are experiencing these hardships that are part of the have-nots that we know exist within our communities, that we need to bring them to the table. And we need to stop talking for people. We need to ensure that people are speaking for themselves. And when I talk about policy change or systems change, as Jamil asked, right? It is the people example that John knows that SCAN brings together. It is the residents of our communities that need to come forward, and we need to encourage them to come forward. And so to answer your question, John,
Yeah,
it's been a hard 15 months.
I could just imagine. So looking at the chat, Councillor Lai, the floor is yours.
Finally.
Thank you, John. My hand was up. I was just kind of reminding you. Anyways, it's okay. I have some comments and I have questions. Lee, thank you very much for the very, very good presentation. It really hit home to me, and it has reminded me about my story as well. And I just wanted to ask you, 1970, AXA has it started in Agincourt?
Yes,
So it started.
Yes. So interestingly enough, Cynthia, and I love the history of AXA. So in 1970, Jerry Phillips and many other people who cared about community, this is the story that has been told to me, Cynthia, many times, came together along with the faith leaders of 8 different churches in Agincourt. And they just started to recognize back in 1970 the changes that were starting to happen in their community. And they rolled up their sleeves and they got to work, and they started to do things like clothing banks, a food bank, and it was neighbors helping neighbors. That's how it started back in 1970. And AXA, the acronym stands for Agincourt Community Services Association. jump ahead 50 years, and Agincourt doesn't mean very much to many people anymore. So we use the acronym AXA, and we've done away with Agincourt as part of our mission statement because it no longer reflects, the geography that we serve.
Yeah, that's very good because, I was just wondering because I came to Canada in 1970s. Too bad I didn't live in Scarborough or Agincourt. I lived downtown in rooming houses.
Yes.
So when people ask me, talk about rooming houses now, I say, you don't have to tell me. I've been there. I've lived it. So that's the question I'm asking, the first question. The second question is about these refugees, the Syria refugees. How many of them have settled in Scarborough? Do you have sort of an idea?
I do. So the interesting thing about the Syrian influx that happened in 2016 here in Scarborough, particularly, they walked into Pearson International as refugees. They walked out with a PR card. And so they are newcomers. They don't have the status of refugee. They had the status of refugee for just a few moments until they walked out of Pearson International. And I would say that there are between 5,000 and 8,000 that actually settled in Scarborough. And I would say that we probably were able to probably help most of those 5,000 people in one way or another. Many of them have called Scarborough home. Certainly in 2016 and 2017, many have now moved on, to other parts of our city. But Scarborough was the place of destination for many of them.
I see. So do they speak English when they've come, those Syrian people?
Not very much. Arabic is
the Arabic.
Yep. And we actually, so obviously teaching English and English classes is one of the very first things that we tell a newcomer to this country, that it's important that you learn to speak English.
Yeah. Okay, those are my questions, but I have some comments to add, and I'd really appreciate. How long have you been working in your role now at EXA?
This will be my 10th year.
10th year, okay. The reason I ask that is because, it looks like that this is not a job for you. You really, I've always told my staff, if this is a job for you in helping people, you're in the wrong job, okay? You have to actually care enough to kind of take it to heart. So you really do take it to heart. I really commend you on that. And, the fact that I was an immigrant, I was the first generation immigrant when I first came here. I was by myself with my sister. And you have no idea how much I appreciate all these settlement help now. And we didn't have that then, okay? I mean, right in downtown, it's really, really unfortunate that we didn't have it. But, to this day, the language barrier is the most, to this day, I still have language barrier. I'm telling people, being, English not my first language. And so that's very important. When I'm on council, I always said that it has to be multiple languages, any kind of form of communication. I take those new Canadians, newcomers. We have a newcomer office in Toronto now. So I've always tell them that the language that you communicate with them is very important. And I don't know how many languages this EXA uses. Do you 16. Use a lot of languages? 16?
16.
Oh, that's good.
So
it's good to know that.
Yes, our newcomer team speaks 16 different languages. And if you count mine, 17, because I also speak a second language as well. So it is very much a very multicultural staff group and set of volunteers that we have. And there are very few languages of people that can come in through our door where we won't have someone that is able to help.
Mm-hmm. That's very important. Yes. I'm always for that. And my last final thing, I want to share with you a story. It really actually hit home when you said that. Like you quote unquote, I need someone to give me a chance. It really hit home to me, and it reminds me one story. I gave someone a chance in 1994. She was a new immigrant. Nobody hired her. I was actually managing. I was a branch manager for Royal LePage in Agincourt, and I called it Asian Court then. You know, I've changed the name to Agincourt for a little while. So basically, this Chinese immigrant came and she said, nobody's giving me a chance. And I gave her a chance because she didn't have any Canadian experience. But you know what? To this day, she remembers it. She sent me flowers in Christmas. She was so appreciative. You know, I think it's very, very important that we give people chances, because at the end of the day, you know, nobody has any Canadian experience, but I think it's very important. I just wanted to share this very good story about you give, and, you know, when you know, I always said, get is very easy, just give. And I don't know, I mean, you had two phrases there that really was my 3 tenets of life. And you actually spoke on 2 of them when you doing your presentation. My 3 tenets of life is very simple. Work hard, live well, and give back. So live well meaning enjoy life. You know, after you've earned your stripes and all that, you know, I live well. I mean, I enjoy life and give back. Thank you. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cynthia. And I want to remind everybody that Cynthia Lai is my counselor. So there you in action for Milliken. Just before thanking you, and I promised to get everybody out of here on time, Lee, I just wanted you to mention a couple of things. I don't think people really understand that that immigrant seniors don't get full old age security and guaranteed income supplement, and if they're low income, they in fact, if they're sponsored, they don't get any of the guaranteed income supplement at all. And so we often see people like that at food banks and say, why would a senior be in a food bank? And they often say to buy pharmaceuticals. And you say, well, wouldn't you be eligible for those? And the answer actually isn't. So so there's some really real community education that you have to do there.
Agreed.
Okay.
And I know people had a lot of queries around why our homeless drop-in program at the Shepherd site had a lot of people who were not homeless. And the reality for us, and I know you know, John, and many others know as well, is that poverty is not just that homeless individual who, you know, you see on the streets. Poverty is not being able to afford to pay rent and buy food. That is poverty, right? And you know, the seniors that John is talking about that don't have access to the same kind of benefits that other seniors might have, you know, that is poverty. That means that you can't afford everything that you need. Food is not a luxury. And so it isn't just about, you know, the homeless person that, you know, we are providing a program for. We had to open our doors, and we had to continue to open our doors to folks that are experiencing poverty. And that is why we are here.
Thanks.
Manny,
I understand that, Manny, that you have a comment?
and
Actually, you know what? Why don't you let Basil and Gerard have a comment, and then I'd like to end it off
Sure.
Because I have some good stuff to say about Lee.
Okay, Gerard, do you have a comment?
no, it was to get you to recognize Basil and Manny.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, Manny, you start out.
No, Basil.
Basil, you go ahead, and I can finish it off.
Okay.
Hi, Basil.
Hi, Lee. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Lee, my question is, does Dorset Park have a kitchen?
It sure does.
So if a Rotary Club wanted to meet there, could we organize something where we get a group of people to do some catering for a Rotary Club?
I'm waiting for your call, Basil.
All right.
Okay, Manny.
There you go.
you're up.
Okay, now if you look at the Lee screen, where did you go? Oh, you're up in the top corner. That is actually her office at work. And if you look at it, it is 8 o'clock or close to 8 o'clock, and she's still at work. I have seen firsthand the work that Lee has done, and she always has a smile on her face. This has been a hard 15 months for not only Lee, but her staff. And they've done absolutely fantastic work. They've never closed. So they're very essential to our community. They've never closed their doors, and they're constantly working day in. In fact, to be honest with you, we kind of have to tell Lee, make sure your staff is getting lots of rest, that they're not burnt out, because we want to make sure that if they're serving people, that they're not going to be one of those that gets served as well, because they've been burnt out and stuff. The work that AXA does, and that's why I'm going into my second term of AXA is, and I think, Cynthia, you got to give back. And for me, when I had to go through an interview process again, which I found it kind of funny, but they said, "What do you want to be part of AXA?" And I said, well, basically, this is my backyard. So I want to make sure that the people in my backyard are looked after. And, I don't want to hear stories that people aren't being looked after. And so I want to do what I can to make sure that I help out in any way, any possible form at all. And I will say, Lee, as the leader of the team, is a rock star. Salma left and she had to go to another meeting, and she said, she goes, "Manny, I got to go to another meeting, but I just want to let you know, Lee Soda is a rock star." And that's how we feel on the board, that she's done a phenomenal job. And we hope that she stays on for at least as long as my 6 years are done. After that, she can leave. So, but she is a rock star because she is a great leader for her team and for her community and stuff. And then, and John, when you're looking at people for your Scarborough Walk of Fame, I have a nomination for you.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
No.
I make note of that.
Okay.
I will share with you that, and thank you, Cynthia, for saying that this isn't just a job. It's not. It's a labor of love. And I'm also a Scarborough resident. I live in North Scarborough, so it's all the more important for me to make sure that we have thriving, healthy, vibrant communities. This is where I live too, right?
Yeah, so thanks very much, Manny, because you took my job away from me, which is the job of thanking our spotlight speaker. But Lee, very compelling, a very passionate presentation. I was hanging on every word, and I think I usually think I know everything of what's going to be said, and I've heard you speak before at the SBA, and it was just as compelling and passionate this time. So I really want to thank you for being here and talking to our small but mighty group. Now I have the distinct pleasure of reminding everyone to join the Scarborough Community Renewal organization. So I would please ask you to do that and go to the SCRO website, just put Scarborough Community Renewal Organization in, and also to ask you to join us and tweet it out and tell other people to join us for our next presentation is Crystal Jagu. I hope I have pronounced the name and done justice to that. Scarborough artist, and a Dr. Paul Caulfield. And that Gerard will put the promo on the screen, which he did. Thank you very much, Gerard. And please ask the audience to share the information with friends. And I think we can see right now we are right on 8 o'clock. We promised to get everybody out and have an on-time arrival so that you can go about the rest of your evening. Hopefully have a glass of wine and kick back a bit. And once again, thanks everyone for coming tonight. And And I hope everybody is going to have a great weekend as we move into this next phase, this new phase of opening up. So thanks again, Lee, and thanks to everybody who came tonight. Thanks again.
And just before everybody leaves, thanks, John, but the first half of the year, the SCRO, our Scarboroughs, were every 2 weeks. Starting in July 15th, they'll be every 3 weeks on Thursday evening.
Okay, thanks, Gerard. Okay, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.